Welcome back. We're here to look ahead to Saturday afternoon's Premier League match between Swansea and Everton. Barnsley's two sides sitting 7th and 8th in the table. Let's start with Everton, a really impressive 3-1 win over Chelsea last Saturday.
Yeah, obviously poured more misery on Chelsea's terrible start to the season. It was a deserved victory as well. It wasn't like a smash and grab. There was a moment when Matic banged in that fantastic goal for Chelsea that you thought, okay, Chelsea, this might be them starting to kickstart their season, maybe come back into that, and they thought maybe they might nick a draw from that game. But in fairness to Everton, they were the better team for the vast majority of that game. Obviously got that late goal from Naismith, who came off the bench and scored a perfect hat-trick. A fantastic introduction from him, and you've got to think he's earned himself a start this week as well. Interesting after the match that he revealed just how close he was to leaving the club on transfer deadline day as well, so it's a big plus for Martinez to keep hold of him, and if he can start adding more goals to his game, he'll be a really good player because he's a nuisance factor as well. But as you say, that win against Chelsea, a huge 3 points for the side, because they've had a difficult start to the season in terms of fixtures, but they've come through it really well. And another big positive from that will obviously be the performance of Stones. So much about him going to Chelsea throughout the transfer window. Fans were delighted that he stayed, was singing all through the game his name, and he put in such a mature display against a really good attack. Of course, they're not firing on all cylinders at the moment, but they're still so dangerous, and Costa is still a very hard striker to play against. So for Stones to perform so well in that match, Jagielka, it must be said, played well as well, but Stones, just the way he started the season, be such an encouragement for him, and him and Jagielka, that centre-back partnership is the basis for them building this season, and they've made a really good start to the season.
Yeah, it certainly showed Chelsea what they're missing there, didn't they? Especially the way Chelsea have defended this season. It would have been even more of a blow how just calm Stones looked in that game. But you mentioned there briefly that Everton, they have had a really tough start to the season. Their fixtures have been very difficult, and you look, they got 7 points out of 12 against Southampton, Man City, Tottenham, and Chelsea. That's a good return from those 4 games. And the thing is, they've got to try and use this form to keep going, because the fixtures, they don't get any easier for them. We've mentioned it many times before. They've got a really tough sort of opening 2-3 months of the season. I mean, next up, they've got West Brom, Liverpool, Man U, and Arsenal. After this weekend, Swansea's not an easy place to go, and then after this weekend they've got those 4 fixtures as well. So very difficult run of fixtures coming up for Everton. If they can get through, say, these next 5 games with maybe sort of 10 points from those next 5 games, then that would put them in really, really good stead going into their sort of easier run of fixtures towards sort of the end of the calendar year. So it's been a tough run of fixtures for them, but they've looked fairly solid. I wouldn't say players like Lukaku, he hasn't sort of been at his best yet. I mean, Barkley's really impressed me so far. He seems to have been much more mature this season, the decisions he's making. But if Lukaku can put in a couple of more really good performances like he did against Southampton, and they could maybe get a few surprise wins in this run, and put themselves in really good stead to maybe push for the European places this year.
There's a lot more feel-good factor about the club at the moment, isn't there? Obviously last season, such a disappointment for them. They're expected to push for Europe again, having come close to the Champions League the season before that in Martinez's first year in charge, but last season finished in the bottom half, didn't have a great summer, but things have just got better and better since the season's begun. Obviously keeping hold of Stones is a big one. You mentioned their results there. 7 points from those games is a really good return, and their away form has got much better so far this season as well. Only lost 1 of their last 6 in the Premier League after losing 8 of the previous 9 before that, I think, and yet to concede in the Premier League away this season as well. Got that fantastic 3-0 win against Southampton, perhaps a bit fortunate not to concede against Tottenham in that 0-0 draw. Needed Howard in man of the match display to keep a clean sheet there, but to have not conceded away from home in the Premier League after a couple of games is a good record, especially playing those two. So be confident of giving themselves a chance this time around as well.
Yeah, so they're certainly coming into this game in a really sort of confident mood. But Swansea, on the other hand, last time out went to Watford and suffered their first defeat of the season. A disappointing result there, especially the way they started in August. They were so good in August. The results against Manchester United, Chelsea, absolutely brilliant. The performances of Gomez and Ayew, who won the Player of the Month for August, so they were really good there. But went to Watford, lose 1-0, not scoring is disappointing there, and especially they played against 10 men. Towards the end of the match after the Barami red card, so that was disappointing. And the goal they conceded as well, sort of a route one goal. Gary Monk won't be happy with that, but to be fair to him, he said that his side weren't at their best in that game, and he said they got what we deserved. Just we didn't deserve to get anything out of that game. So they'll certainly learn from that, hopefully. But we've talked about how strong Everton look coming into this, and this will be a real test for Swansea to see if they are at that level that they were in August.
I mentioned Everton's away form earlier. Swansea's home form has been pretty impressive recently as well. I think only Man City in the last home game of last season have beat them in the last 6 in the Premier League. That was a 4-2 game, a really good game that one. Swansea They've got goals in them at home particularly, and they usually get the results. It's only really against the big teams that they don't win at home. They've got a 100% record this season. I think since March 2014, they haven't lost to a side who finished outside last season's top 7. Obviously, Everton don't fall into that bracket, so they'll be confident of getting another 3 points here. And that home form should be the basis for them to build a European charge. They've certainly started the season well enough. That Watford game looks potentially like a bit of a hiccup, maybe an anomaly of a result considering how they've started the season before. But they'll be very keen to get back to winning ways with this one. I think it's important that they do.
Yeah, it's certainly a game between two sides who think themselves have got a chance of getting into the top 6 this season. Which way do you see it going? Yeah,
it's a tough one to call, isn't it? Everton, they've impressed me a lot more than I thought they would so far this season. They've been much better than I expected. I think they might get a point from this one and give a few goals as well. 2-2 draw, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually going to back Everton to get a win here. I think this is the week when European football starts, and last season European football really hampered Everton, but they don't have that this season. They look really, really strong in the league at the moment, and I think that they might just edge this one 2-1. So we've got one Everton win and a draw. Thanks for joining us.